Hey, HappiDaze here. In today's video, we're doing a wrap-up of Grand Party, showing you the last 2 days of battles, see if we can get to 15 out of 15. I originally was going to do all 5 days, but it's been kind of busy, so I figured I'd just do kind of the last couple days. We'll talk about the unit. Spoiler alert, I don't think you're going to be using this guy past this GP season. I think he was kind of busted with his ability to be able to get special off so quick this season, but with that going away, unfortunately, and I didn't even see many people using this guy actually as a captain, except for maybe once, I think, for all the days that I was testing. So, unfortunately, this guy's not going to see much play in PvP after this. He might be on some teams, but you're not going to use this guy as a GP burst captain. So that being said, let's get into the unit itself. We'll see what he can do. We'll see how he improves the striker team or the int team, and we'll talk about some of the special abilities and where his shortcomings are. So let's get right into the first battle here. So starting off the days for battles here, we're going to go ahead and face this int Luffy captain here. So just for you guys who are probably wondering what teams I am using a combination of a side team built of kind of all the latest and greatest units with the Luffy Zoro Sanji, the Nami, the Frankie, the Robin, the Chopper, and I also have 2 other teams on here that I'll be using for all these battles today. The other one being kind of what I'm calling the int Navy team. So we have Saturn, we have the Sword members, and a couple other units, Smoker, just to kind of help us get through a bunch of this content, hopefully help us clear it pretty well. And then the third team is the team that you see here, which is kind of our really crazy powerhouse team that we have out here. Fully maxed out Kaido, fully maxed out Big Mom and Katakuri. Pika doesn't have too much investments. My Strength Luffy there, completely maxed out. S-Hawk there, I think he's at 130, Kuma 130. Sailor Wolf doesn't have much because I just pulled him. But it's a pretty beefy team, and that's kind of where I really like this. So just to give a quick recap of what happens on this season. So the main GP burst captain, which is Saturn, who we're using, basically has 2 charges. Basically, if you use his burst, he will give a buff to Psy, Int, Striker Driven, and basically they will get a 100% chance to evade damage to defense for 20 seconds. Fantastic ability, really good. The downside is that it's a 50-second cooldown, which is kind of insane. So outside of this GP season, where you actually have the ability to use it quickly, you're not going to have that in upcoming seasons. So I don't think you're going to see a ton of play on this guy. And outside of giving that damage to defense buff there, he also targets all enemies for 6,000 fixed damage. So that is actually pretty good. Can't really complain too much there, so that 6,000 damage is awesome in terms of the utility. Really meant as a captain to be able to stop burst captains from going, especially the int Luffys, the side Luffys, the Kaidos. He's really good at stopping that damage to defense. And then for a just a normal GP leader ability, he does give int teammates recovery, speed up 6, special TP 3. He gives striker driven HP up, attack up, and I think defense up as well. And then if you have Navy or World Government, which are kind of really hard tags to get, he also gives them HP recovery up 5, special TP up 2. So they really want you to build teams that are focused on int and New World, Navy, and World Government units. So if you don't have those, it gets really tough. And you can see one of the problems that I have is you want to be able to have, you know, side teams, obviously, or in teams, so you can kind of take that burst. So that's why I have this side team. But you can see it got wiped out pretty easily. It seems like it's hit or miss, so I'm not sure if we have to rework this team in the future. But that's kind of what it is. So there we go. First match of the day is done. Able to get the dub in the first 2 matches. Love to see that. And we move on to the second match of the day once we get our rewards here. Alright, so going into the second match of the day, of day 4, we're going to go and take on this Luffy captain. He's not really that crazy, so I was thinking a pretty easy win there. So just going back to what the abilities are. So we talked about the abilities of the Grand Party skill set in the last match. In this one, just to give you a quick recap of what Saturn can do as part of his just normal regular PvP abilities. So he has a 35-second cooldown on his attack. He gives targets enemies within a large range. He gives them defense up, I believe. 3 enemy special bind for, I don't say it's either 5 or 10 seconds. I don't quite remember what it was. And then they want you to have 6 strikers on the crew. If you do, you can basically get 4 times damage. Doesn't go to defense, just keep that in mind. And then again, they want you to build the Navy and World Government units around this unit. So if you have those units, then they get an auto heal for 30 seconds, which isn't too bad. Like I said, it's really tough. Like, the special bind is really good. The defense is always, of course, really good. But the fact that you have to have 6 strikers, and it has to be really int strikers, so you can kind of get the most of the abilities there. Just makes it a little bit hard to really justify that special. It's not that great. It'll do some damage, give you some defense. and give you a little bit of special bind. But ultimately, like, the special is just okay. It's not broken. It's not anything that's going to be people are going to be clamoring for, which is kind of disappointing after, you know, the hype of what Saturn was, but that kind of is what it is. So that's just his special ability there. His normal ability that he gives, and this is why I mentioned you want to do int strike units, is that he gives int and striker teammates HP up 7, attack up 7, defense up 7, which is good. You like to see that. And then again, if you have 6 or more strikers on the team, you get additional buffs. So you get another additional attack up buff. You can get additional shield. You get some self CT speed up 10 seconds. The first, the first 10 seconds of battle, you get that CT speed up. So you're definitely going to want to get that, build this team with this guy, with 6 strikers, with that in mind. So just a little kind of strategy here about this team. So this Saturn unit, like I said, does special bind. Smoker also does special bind. Then we have the sword unit at the back there, who helps through the confusion. And I think just the combination of that does it really well. We have really Kid and Sabo to do a lot of the damage dealing. But that's kind of the issue that I found, is that there's not a really crazy amount of striker units that could do like just an insane amount of damage. Of course, this Kid here is 150. I just picked up Weevil on the PR banner that just dropped, so I don't really have too much investments in him. But obviously he can do damage to defense, so he's pretty good. But he's not into, which is kind of the downside there. So kind of a hodgepodge team, but it kind of works, as you can see. So in this case, especially when I'm fighting, teams that don't have super high defense, using that burst there really helps with that 6,000 damage. So that's kind of a key component there. And then once that happens, Kid just comes in, does a hit for some damage, and kind of really gets them there. So as I was mentioning previously, overall his GP burst is okay, and his just regular specials are okay. But that wraps up match number 2 for day 4. So let's get in the final match, see if we can complete day 4 being perfect. So for the final match of the day, we don't have a non-burst captain, so this is not going to be fun. I did switch up my teams here, just because I know that the first team I'd be facing was Dex team. I feel really confident in my Strength team, just because with the buggy on there, they can severely debuff the Dex. Now, they do have Kaido, so you do have to, of course, worry about that. That's always an issue that you have to worry about. But if I can get through that first battle, I feel pretty confident with the other 2 teams I have there that I can survive with the burst that's there. So again, this whole strategy just counts on me being able to get my specials off first, kill this first team without too much problems. And as long as Luffy or Kuma can go, it's pretty much game over from that point. So just to go back to the burst unit of Saturn himself. So as I mentioned, sorry, you actually get 3 bursts because of the GP was up for the season. But yeah, you get the 35-second cooldown with the buffs for the season, but of course, like I said, it goes to 50. So it's going to be really hard to use this guy outside of this GP battle. Kuma's going to come in and just knock everyone out. You love to see that. And just really cinch that first battle for us. We have a burst ready to go, so as soon as their Sai Luffy is going, we'll be able to get our burst off. Now, I do find Sai Luffy is probably the best fit for this guy, just because, of course, he gets damage, or he charges his burst by doing damage, right, as opposed to the Int Luffy who gets it by receiving damage. So it just makes it much easier to kind of control when it's going to go off. And sometimes you can say, okay, I'm going to let them do their specials because I know that, I still have time left in my countdown, my 20-second countdown. Or you can kind of play in some strategies around that. So I find it's much more flexible as opposed to the Int Luffy, where you don't have as much flexibility there when you're fighting that burst captain. But again, we're just going to have our sword crew just come in, do some confusion here, which is, of course, always awesome. Especially when you're fighting, for example, that Odin who can do the special bind, which is just a pain to deal with. Again, I wish I had more damage on this team, but unfortunately, I just don't. So my strategy here was just do as much special bind as I can to stop them from going, and kind of hope that works. And it worked out pretty well for me. So we should be able to get through this fight without too many problems. So, like I said, if you're looking for leaders to fight with this guy, and after the season, it probably won't matter. But if you are, as I was mentioning, you want to fight the Int Luffys, the Sai Luffys, the Kaidos, all those guys or any burst captain that can do damage to defense, this guy's going to be really good against, which is just super helpful. And like I said, again, a lot of times I'm using the 6,000 fixed damage from the GB burst to take out teams, especially like strength teams, which don't have really that much defense. It makes it really easy to kind of take out those teams, and then you buff their kind of key damage dealing output of that strength team with Kuma and Luffy by stopping that damage to defense. So it works out really well if you're facing strength teams and you have this guy ready to go. It'll be perfect to kind of get rid of that and not have to take a giant burst from Luffy and Kuma if you're fighting teams built like that. boom, Saturn comes in, 13k hit, love to see it. Basically just gives us the wins there, gets us up to 12 out of 12, gets us the total wins for day number 4. And now we go into the no man's zone. So we're going to stick with Saturn. As I mentioned, at the end of the day, make sure you're going in and auto-editing your team. That way everyone can face a non-burst captain, give every chance to get those 15 wins, so just a quick reminder to do that. So that being said, now let's get into the last day matches. It's all RNG at this point. Let's see if we can take it home with Saturn. Alright, so for the first match of the last day, we are facing burst captains again. Again, if you have a choice, the Whitebeard and the Ace this season have been absolutely insane to go against. They do the 70% HP cut, then they do some damage. Like, it's insane with the buffs that they've gotten with the Striker rule set. So it's no wonder that you see so many people using them for this season. But yeah, they were insane. I think I probably saw them probably the most in terms of GP burst leaders that were non-Saturn units people were using. So definitely a very popular choice outside of the Gear 5 Luffy's there. But yeah, he's just a nasty pay to deal with, and that's why I didn't feel like having to worry and take on those teams and deal with it. I felt pretty confident that going into these fights with my kind of beefed up int teams and Driven and Powerhouse and Striker, you know, we could do pretty good. So there you go, 6,000 fixed hit. Did a good chunk of damage. Now, they have a lot of their specials going, but it doesn't really matter too much because, of course, we have that ability to kind of block a lot of that damage to defense with what Saturn can do. Now, just a quick note, he does do damage to defense reduction. He doesn't do fixed damage reduction. So if you have any people who are doing fixed damage, you're still going to take that damage. It's just for the damage to defense that Saturn will block for you, so you just have to keep that in mind. But see, we were still able to get through pretty easily without using a single unit, get through that first fight. And again, because it's a Psy Luffy and they get their burst gauge charged by giving damage, if you can get your units to go off really quick and stop them from going, you can really control when they launch their Gear 5 Luffy burst, and then just get your Saturn burst ready to go right before. So works out really well. Second team we're fighting here, I just didn't honestly think I would win this against that team, against that quick team. So I apologize for that. I just ended up skipping because I'm like, oh, there's no way I'm going to win that second match. The idea was to use that second team as a way to just eat the burst and then come into the third match with my crazy Saturn team and get the win there. That, of course, didn't happen, so it's a probably shorter video for this first fight of the day. But hey, get our first win of day number 5 and see if we can get more. Starting match number 2, let's see what we got again. Just people, when you're done for the day, help everyone out. Set your team to auto-edit. Just let everyone get 15 wins. Like, it's. I know in this case, I feel pretty confident that we can take out any Psy Luffy or Int Luffy that we're facing. But just help everyone with the community strat, right? There's no reason not to. As you saw in just a couple of fights ago, when you're done for the day, just go in, auto-edit your team, and just help everyone out to get those 15 wins. Just really help out the whole community there. Again, first match, we're just kind of going through, have the really crazy team here. Now, as I mentioned, my King and Kaido and Big Mom and Kakari are fully maxed. So when they get their fully charged gauge going off, it just does a lot. Unfortunately for me, I was trying to get my special off before Weevil went. Didn't happen. So we ended up taking that shot from him through defense. Wasn't really paying too close attention there. Should have been really watching what was happening there, but that's why you gotta watch out what you're doing when you're facing enemies that can actually hit through your damage to defense. So it's okay though. Kaido's gonna come in, he's just gonna absolutely slam, and you can see he just lit up everyone. Half stats from Big Mom and then King Kaido going is a recipe for game over. Easy way to get the win for first fight of match number 2. So again, we're going to go into this team. It is the strength team. Of course, they have the Uto does the CT reduction. They have the Kobe, you can do the haste. Jack with the HP cut. Kuma and Luffy with the damage to defense. Now at this point, I had my burst gauge charged about a quarter of the way. So I knew I had about a 24-second, roughly, wait period before my burst would be ready. But I know I want to save my burst and kick it off right before they're ready to go. Again, I'll take the Jack hit because his isn't a damage to defense. But I also don't have to take the Luffy shot. I won't have to take the Kuma shot, and it just makes it just a million times easier to survive that. You can see the 6,000 hit took off a huge chunk of their HP as well, so it just makes it that much better to kind of go through. Kobe's going to haste everyone, so it's a good thing that we have that damage to defense shield up there. Again, Luffy's going to try to hit us. It does no damage, which is just, it's cracked. It's awesome. When it works, it's really well. And then Garp just comes back and shows Luffy who is boss there. But at this point, there's really nothing they can do to beat us on this first fight. As I mentioned, we're going to have our Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro go, take out 2 units there, and at that point, it's GG's. There's nothing that they can really do there. So that strategy worked out really well for us in terms of, like I said, facing that Sai Luffy and just timing your burst right before your opponents will do any specials that go through defense. It just makes it really easy to get that victory and brings us to 14 wins. So we got one more. Let's see if Saturn can bring us home. Again, completely RNG, so who knows what's going to happen. So let's see what that final match has in store for us. All right, 20 gems on the line. Let's see. Oh, see, thank you to all 3 of these awesome gentlemen or gentlewomen who changed their teams at the end of the day. Help everyone out. Make your team auto-edit at the end of the day. Let everyone get the full gem count, right? Personally, I think that they should cap the max gem count at 12. You get 12 wins, you get max rewards. Bandai chose to not do that. It's their prerogative. But in that case, do the community strategy. Help everyone out. Help everyone get to the full 50 gems that you can get for getting all the wins there. There's no reason not to. It's not ranking against each other. You don't lose anything by doing so. So just make sure when you're done for the day, and I'll show you at the end of the fights for today, that when you're done, just go in, auto-edit your teams, and you'll just help everyone out who hasn't finished their fights and just make it a lot easier for everyone else. So for this first fight, we are facing the Strength team. Again, I had the goal or the game plan that I could use the Saturn burst to stop it. Now, again, this isn't like the full Strength team, it's an auto-edit team. But still, you don't want to have to take bursts from Luffy or anything like that, so it's always important to just kind of have some plans in your back pocket so you just make sure that if someone hits you, you're not going to just take a crazy amount of damage, and that's exactly what this did. So Garp comes in, does a bunch of damage, 2 left. At this point, like I said, there's nothing they can do, pretty much a guaranteed win. And at that point, it's just, what can we do for the second match of the day? Again, it's a rare recruit leader. They can't do any bursts to us, so we have 0 fair here. Like, we're going to get the 15 out of 15 wins, which is awesome. So, yeah, that should be pretty quickly, pretty easy. We are facing the Dex team here. Again, basically, once Luffy goes, like, it's over. His special is so broken, the Strength Luffy, that once he goes, he's pretty much going to wipe out all the units that are on the field when it goes, if the other units don't wrap it out before us. Now, I do have Pika on here, so I did pull Pika recently on the Power Rumble Suku Fest that just happened, and he's pretty awesome. I must say, the defense he brings to teams is really good. So I'm super glad that I was able to pull him. I'll probably have some maybe showcase videos coming out in the near future, kind of how I can build some really beefy, tanky teams. I think he'll be a key component of that. And he also was key, especially for Grand Party. Sorry, not for Grand Party, for Assault Rumble, where you have to survive a lot of time, right? You want units that can keep your teams alive while giving you the most output of damage. And he's been fantastic for this, the last 2 Assault Rumbles that happened. He was a key staple in making sure that teams stayed alive to be able to do the most damage to get to the highest ranking there. So, that being said, he's going to go right here. Bunch of stat reduction, bunch of shield. It just makes it really awesome. Luffy doesn't get boosted by him. He's the only one who didn't. But that's quite okay. You can see when Luffy went, he literally took out just about everyone except for Dalton there. Mori's going to come out on the bench, but it's not going to matter. Fully 150 level break. King Kaido just absolutely sealed it. So that's going to wrap it up for the day. Again, when you're done for the day, when you get your total wins, whatever they may be, just make sure you go into the setup tab and you go ahead and hit that auto edit button at the top of that setup tab. It'll ask you to choose a captain, so just choose a non-burst captain, just so people don't have to deal with that. So I'm just going to choose just a random captain here. I'll do the Zoro just for fun. And now all the teams are auto-edited teams. Yeah, there are still some higher units in there, but the people will be able to kind of breeze through that without too many problems at all. So there we go. We went through all 5 days using just Saturn as our captain. So final thoughts on this unit. I'm kind of underwhelmed, to be honest with you. Like I said, I don't foresee people using this guy past his GP season, just because his cooldown is way too high at 50 seconds to be able to kind of be used a lot in upcoming seasons, especially when you have the Int Luffy bursts that are going to be there. People just aren't going to be using it as much, I don't think. And he's kind of restrictive. To get like the most out of the buffs, you really have to build, like I said, Int striker teams with a bunch of strikers on your team. And a bunch of those Navy and World Government units. And unfortunately, there's just not a ton of great ones out there that are strikers or int. So it kind of really severely limits what he can do in terms of, synergy and what you're going to do there. So do I think he might still see some play as just a team out there? Yeah, I think he could definitely see some play there. If you don't have to build all 3 of your GP teams around that rule set of either int, Sai, striker, or driven, I think it becomes a lot easier to just have a single team with him on it and kind of build it from there, and just kind of see if you can, you know, make a team that does a lot of special bind and special reverse stuff like that you saw with the Sword Crew, that you saw with Smoker, that you saw with Saturn himself. So I think that's where you'll probably see the most use. Again, I don't think he's in the top. I would almost say I don't think he's in the top 10 PvP units, to be honest with you, where he sits now. As more units come out, maybe that will change. Maybe he'll get some better stats, things like that. But for now, he's just not there. So that's my thoughts. Again, sorry I haven't put out much videos. It's been just a couple crazy weeks here. Of course, we got the new Nintendo Switch too, so I've been playing with that a lot as well. And just general life stuff has been kind of busy. So gonna get more content out there. I already have a couple of videos in the pipeline that I'm working on, so look out for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate you sticking around all this time. Hope you guys got your 15 out of 15 wins. Hope you guys use the community strategy. And until next time, be kind to each other. Thanks.